Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Japa Podcast. I'm Victor. I hope you're having a wonderful time, a wonderful day. I am supposed to give an apology for being MIA, but then this will be the first time for this particular season. So I'm even beginning to feel like, is that not a problem? But we're going to go into the details of that within the next coming minutes. But till then, I'm going to let my guest for today to introduce himself.
Okay. My name is Tobenna, ACK, and what exactly am I supposed to say? And I'm
I
a
mean, I think,
Nigerian
okay, who lives in Germany? I think
who lives in
that's
Germany.
fair. And I think you work in tech, right?
Yes, I'm a software engineer
You didn't tell
in
me what
tech.
up until now, I didn't exactly what you did. I just know you shall have a tech job, but it's fine.
I could have
So,
been a cleaner all this time, or a janitor.
whatever. I mean, it's still a job. I don't think that qualifies as a tech job. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Babe, how have you been?
So far so good. The sun is out, summer is summering, and catching up with my friends. So I'm all right. Things are good.
All right. Talking about summer and summering. What have you been doing for this summer? What have you been up to since the summer began?
I've been working a lot.
Okay.
I think this is one of the summers where travel wasn't so much of a priority for me because, I mean, I've been to a lot of the summer destinations. So I think this year I just wanted to sit back at home and chill a bit. And none of my friends were traveling either. So it's a bit different this year. So it's more about meeting up as a community in my city, Düsseldorf, and hanging out, going for dinner, lunch, brunch, and all that. And but not there's not so much emphasis on travel.
Interesting. So that's it's to say that you usually travel during the summer.
I do a lot.
Okay. But let's not get into that. So, how have I been? I've been well, alive, and going through a lot. And then, what have I been up to? So, exactly, the last time I recorded this podcast, I started a job. And I think I lost my job within the same week I recorded last. Very close. I know it's very close to that time. So, I mean, that is thought. I mean, it's not exactly one of the reasons I've been MIA, but I traveled a bit. All through July was on the way from going to, I mean, I mentioned I was going to be in Bonn, one of the episodes. So I was in Bonn for like 10 days, I think. Then I was back home to my village, as we call it. And then I was in Berlin for just 24 hours, I think. I went on Tuesday
Oh
and I was
yeah,
back on Wednesday.
I remember that.
Then yes, and I went to Würzburg where I spent a weekend. Then I went to Frankfurt. I didn't tell I went to Frankfurt. I went to Frankfurt for just one day. That was last week, Monday. A friend was relocating and he needed help with that. I had to go to his place and we moved his stuff basically to his house. He booked the boat tickets, but he didn't allow enough time between the time we arrived and the time I was supposed to go back. So basically, we got to his house, in less than 5 minutes, I was out. Because if I had,
5 minutes.
yes, or I think around 5 minutes, I was out. Because if I stayed longer, I would have missed my train. He was doing that because he was considerate of me. He didn't want me to be out late. I mean, that was a thoughtful thing to do. So that was it. So basically, for the last couple of weeks, I've been on the way and I've been jobless. And what has that been? Mm, I think that's pretty much it. And that's exactly one of the reasons that I've not been recording because I've been trying to get my sheets together and I can't really be recording while I'm not even sure where I was. Not like I was sure where I was going to be every time, but I was just not. Okay, the only trip that I didn't plan was the Berlin trip, which I think I also have to mention that it was my brother because I mentioned on this podcast my brother was supposed to come. Initial plan was going to come to my place, but somehow that didn't happen. I have to go visit him. That's a lot of me. That's a lot about me. So we're going to get into the conversation proper. And usually I start with asking how the guest journey to Germany or to whichever country they're in started. So I'm going to ask you the same exact question today. How did your journey to Germany start? The look on your face, what's going on?
I mean, it started with a job opening and
Okay.
LinkedIn, a LinkedIn message. Germany. I mean, to be honest, I've always dreamed about living in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, because I like a bit of British movies and culture and all that. But while I was in Nigeria during the lockdown 2020, there was a job in the company I used to work at, Trivago, and I applied. I did many rounds of interviews. I got the job, and I thought I could work remotely for a bit, but I had to move to Germany compulsorily. And then I was like, do I really want to do this? Leaving my whole family and my friends behind. On the other hand, I was also excited because living abroad has kind of been, I don't know how to say, it's kind of been a
Something you
dream
wanted to do, yeah.
yeah, it's like a dream of mine actually. But a dream that I felt was too far fetched because, going abroad is hard, you know. If you're trying to go study or if you're trying to go visit, all the visa, wahala, and all that. And even getting a job abroad is also difficult, very, especially if you're not residing there. So I think when this happened, I was like, wow, this is very unexpected. This is happening during COVID.
Yeah,
And the world was kind of upside down. And then I was just about to jet off uh, to Germany, knowing very few people. But yeah, that's how the journey started. Eventually, I got out, landed in Germany. Everywhere was quiet because of the lockdown. A
yeah,
friend of mine welcomed I and another friend from the airport. I traveled with someone, like we got the same job at the same company. So we
yeah.
kind of made our plans together. That was very helpful. He even helped me pay for my apartment because he's a big boy. And I refunded him. So,
Of course.
and we got the same seats on the flight. Um, sorry, like neighboring seats. I almost missed the flight because Lagos traffic. you know, like I underestimated how much time I needed to get through security and boarding. So I literally ran into the plane. So that was crazy. And but I mean, basically that's how I got to Germany. Got here, I started work. I had to work from home for six, 4 months uh, in Düsseldorf because we couldn't go to the
Yeah,
office due to the lockdown. And then I think during summer of 2021, the country, the government decided that people should go outside, but
yeah.
you can wear masks and do the tests and all that stuff. So then we started going to the office for a bit.
Interesting. I mean, I always forget that COVID-19 happened. I think I'm trying to actually forget
What?
that. I always try to forget. I imagine it must have been tough coming to a new country. I mean, 2021 wasn't the peak of it, but then it's still, there was, most places were still locked down.
Yeah.
That must have been very tough. How did you navigate that? Because you come into this new place, you don't have friends, like you said, or maybe you just know someone that helped you receive you at the airport, and that's just about that. Maybe your friend, and then you're stuck up in this apartment where you just live and work. And how was it?
It was like there was a lot of emotions and things going on in my head because first of all I was excited to be here, like finally. 'Cause, I mean, it took a while for me to even get my visa appointment back home, like 3 months, and to like go through all those hurdles and then end up here was exciting. But then I was excited in my studio apartment, and I was also working and I was doing all the city registration and stuff. So I also went out a couple of times. I was really figuring out what to eat because I was like, what is going on? There's no jollof rice. There's no. I just couldn't find what to eat. I was eating oats and bread for like the longest time. And at the grocery stores, I didn't know what things were called because they're like in German, in Deutsch.
Yeah.
So that was also hard, like starving, working, not seeing any people.
Hold on a hot minute. Sorry, I'm cutting you short. At what point? So basically, from what I gather now, you didn't even learn German at all before
No,
getting to Germany.
I did not. I mean, I did like a month on Duolingo.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
It
That doesn't
does.
count. Okay, that must have been tough. And of course, I don't think the African stores were open during this period.
Absolutely not.
And you did not bring food stuff from Nigeria.
I brought the weirdest things you could think about. I brought like milk and oats. Like I didn't bring any actual Nigerian food.
Who does that? To be fair, when I was coming to Europe, I came with milk because I just knew, I knew, of course, we know the milk is always in liquid form.
Yeah,
I wanted to have the real powdered milk. So I came with
absolutely.
peak milk. I came with, was it peak or Loya? Sha came with milk. I came with Milo, all of those. Golden Morn. But I also came with fish like okoroko and all of those. Because you just have to be prepared. It's very, I think you're the first person I've actually spoken to who I know traveled without making provisions for food. Like, how did you even, why didn't you, I mean, why didn't you prepare for food?
Because I don't know how to cook. I mean, there was no point in me bringing up Morocco and stockfish because what am I going to do with it?
There is YouTube. You can always go to YouTube to learn how to cook. It's not that deep.
I didn't even bring rice. I don't know if I brought gari because that would have been very useful. Like I really love soaking gari with milk and all that. So, well, figuring out food was hard for me. I eventually found these Chinese or Asian restaurants. They have like really good rice and chicken. The Indian restaurants as well. They were very, very good. So I was eating a lot of those. Like my house was filled with plates, takeaway plates, like stacked. I was living on takeaway for like months. But eventually I figured out food for a bit. Someone helped me figure it out.
Yeah,
How
you
to
mentioned.
he taught me how to shop in the grocery stores, what to buy,
Yeah,
how to mix them together and make something that a human being can eat for a bit.
fair
But
enough.
it was hard. And then it was really cold. I came like at the peak of winter. And of course, it's my first winter ever. And the heating in the apartment wasn't very strong. So I used to sleep in my winter jacket every night.
For
Absolutely.
real.
I slept in my winter jacket every night. Like they had this duvet, but it was like a summer duvet, like too light, and it wasn't doing
Yeah.
much for me to be honest. So I used to wear like two pairs of socks and this huge trouser and my winter jacket. Like every night was hell for me, basically. And
At what point?
it
Okay, go
was
ahead.
yeah, and I also slept with those winter caps and stuff, the thick
Yeah,
ones.
bed warmers.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, at what point did your heating get fixed, or it wasn't fixed at all?
it didn't get fixed. I just moved out of the place eventually.
Wow, how long did you stay there?
It was there was a 3 months lease, like a
Okay.
temporary place. So I started looking for a more permanent place afterwards.
That is, I'm trying to imagine living in a place where the heating is bad and you have to sleep in your winter jacket. That's tough. That's actually
I
very
mean,
tough.
I don't know if the heating was bad or
But it just wasn't working for you.
yeah. I mean, I was just so cold. I didn't know what else to do. Like the heating was at the highest. I had complained to my colleagues and the person that rented the apartment, and they were like, this is the much we can do. And yeah, and that was also one of the few times where it really snowed into sort of like the temperatures were down to like -10. Like for the past 3 years, I haven't seen that again. So it was an unusually cold winter.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
The
I'm so
struggle.
sorry. Yes, I'm actually trying because I struggle with cold. I know I've been telling you I've struggled with the heat, but then the cold is the absolute worst. But of course, when you have heating and you have a thick duvet, you're fine. But heat is
Yeah.
a bit more hard to deal with as far as I'm concerned. That doesn't mean I still prefer the summer regardless. So let's talk getting a job from Nigeria to a job in Germany from Nigeria. Were you specifically looking for jobs in Germany and Europe at the time, or it was just coincidental?
I think it was coincidental. I was looking for a new job, preferably maybe a job that would let me stay in Nigeria and work remotely. And then I can move to Lekki and live like a big boy. But
Yeah, life had better
but
plans.
yeah, I guess so. I stumbled on this one. I hadn't had much luck with the other applications I made.
Yeah,
Um, Mostly my resume wasn't getting past the screening phase, and some of the foreign companies wanted people that already lived abroad, so they didn't want to
yeah,
go through the visa thing. But then the company I eventually joined, a friend of mine already worked there.
yeah,
So I reached out to him when I saw the opening. I think he probably gave me a referral or something. So he had moved to Germany from Kenya like 6 months earlier as well. And then, yeah, so that one just worked out and I was happy. I mean, I wish they gave me more money, sure, but I was like, you know what? This is not bad for a start.
it is not bad for a start. I mean, the start is always not the sometimes you don't get the kind of money you want for at the start, but
Yeah.
eventually it all adds up.
Yeah. I
And
also got
now,
another job
okay,
in Nigeria then. So there was this like long period between when I got the job and when I got my visa. And I wasn't certain how long that period would be. And then I got the
okay,
second offer as well. So I just took it up. I started working a new job while waiting for my visa. And as things happened, the visa came out 3 months in 3 months' time. So I had to quit that job
yeah.
after 3 months.
Okay,
And
that's actually nice.
I mean, it was weird actually. It was a bit
I
weird
mean, I
because
mean, it's weird for the
it's,
company, but also it's nice because I mean, if you are traveling to travel, you know the money you can get, and that's what I did in Nigeria for like 3 months, and I was going to travel. Actually, I was doing my onboarding when I got my what's it called, my admission letter, I got admission later before the onboarding start because it's a banking job. You do like a 3 months extensive training and all of that. So I had returned home. I did training from Asaba, where my family lives at the moment. So I returned home because I needed a break from Lagos. Okay, no, I returned home because I knew the train was going to happen. Then I got the admission and I'm like, do I stop this training or should I? But just like you, I was like, what if the visa doesn't work? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
Said the training. I did a 3 months training, did the training because also I couldn't get my German visa at the time when the class started. So I was juggling both of them. So I'm doing this 3 month training. I have to attend class. So what I usually do, I think from the 3 months training, I will be online logged in. I'm like, I tell like two people, if anybody calls my name, alerts me. Then I'll go to my master's class and I'm taking the class because sometimes like twice a week. It was not easy because the training for the job, you have assignments, you have exams to write.
yeah,
The school program, they also have assignments at the end of every class. So basically, I was, see, I talked so much, my mouth could almost begin to hurt because during the training, you're asking questions. It's a training. You're trying to make sure you learn. And for some of us that don't have any prior knowledge of the banking system, it was hard because I was learning accounts and I don't know how to calculate anything except for money. So it was hard for me to deal with all of that. And then the offer came, I said, work. And then, like 3 months later, I got my visa. So I had to leave. I had to quit. And of course, everybody was, you could see everybody giving you that look like,
yeah.
that was not a good thing for you to do. But what choice do I have? Because if I didn't take the job, what if the visa didn't work? I would have been stuck with nothing. And on the other
Yeah,
hand, too, the money I was getting from that job was getting to some stuff. Of course, I know my family was mostly funding my travel abroad, but also there were a few things I needed to do. Like when I had to do my visa appointment, I didn't have to call anybody to send me money for my flight because those are small things I would have had to depend on people for. But pay for my flights, I could do a few other things. The things I needed to travel with, I had to buy them. I didn't have to be to write someone a list. I need sort of embarrassing, that kind of thing. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but also I imagine that it was weird for every other person involved. But what can I say?
yeah. It was also mostly remote, so at least no one gave me any bad looks because they don't even see my face.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think one of my managers at the time thought I wasn't doing enough. And I think for her, it felt like, well, that proves it. Thinking about it, I was not doing enough because I know not that I wasn't doing enough because come on, it was a banking job. I was bringing millions before within weeks of coming into the bank. Don't ask me how I went about it. But it's the fact that they didn't give me all the tools I needed. And for me it was frustrating. Like that was actually the first, you know how you see the banking system, you expect that it's organized. Then you get a job in a bank, you come to work, there's nobody made provisions for you. Like there's nobody there to receive you. People are basically scrambling. And I'm like, why? And there's no device that has been dedicated to me. Like for the first 1 week, I didn't have a device to work with. I just come to work and I'm sitting down, I'm calling this person, writing to this person. Again, how do you write when there is no device? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
It felt weird. And then the device comes and there's someone has to authorize you to have access to the software, and that is a whole process. What was I supposed to do within this interim time? And of course, because you have dead targets, you're making calls already. But even when you make your calls and there's the money supposed to come in, there's still some hang up somewhere. So at some point I was like, okay, if you're not going to make me work at a faster pace that you expected me, than the resources you're providing me. So I just had to start working at a pace that I thought was comfortable for me. And then I hated the meetings they did after work. Like sometimes work is closing when you're starting a meeting. What the heck is wrong with everybody? And for me, because I'm always very I cannot be myself. Sometimes the meeting is going on, I'll be like, it's 5 o'clock. This is the time you're paying me for my job. I have to leave this place. That's not the right attitude to work in Nigeria, but there
yeah,
was no other thing because I was living in Lagos too. If I stayed longer for the meeting to end, I might be stuck in traffic. And then the
Exactly.
madam is basically, she's been there for, she has a lot of experience. She could work from anywhere in the world. So she doesn't have to be in the office like I have to be in the office. She didn't understand it because she's new and I'm saying that I have to go. So she thought I was not being too dedicated. I'm like, at this point, that's your business because in terms of what the target, I'm actually meeting them, even though I'm not supposedly, I didn't seem to be struggling with them, and I didn't also seem to be doing like a rat. You know, the performance people do to show that they're working. There was none of
Yeah.
that. But every target I have to meet,
The
I was meeting
showmanship.
them, and the ones I couldn't meet, they were mostly because of hang-ups from the resources available from the company. So I'm like, okay, that's your business, but I shall try my best. But that's by the way. So now I noticed you have a lot of friends, and you mentioned you at the time it came, there were no friends. How did that start? How did you get comfortable enough? Or at what point did you really start reaching out to, how did you start making friends? Let's start from there.
Well, you know Nigerians.
Okay.
We are very friendly. So remember I traveled with my friend, the big boy,
Yeah.
and he already had some connections here in Germany. So there's this company in Nigeria called Andela. Like a lot of software engineers that worked in Andela in Nigeria, some of them moved to Germany. And my friend also worked there, so he had his friends already here. So I think through him, I started meeting his friends, and then they became my friends.
Okay.
And there was also like a small circle of Nigerians here that he also knew, and I met them through him. So it kind of feels like my entire friendship circle is through him. Because I didn't know anyone. Absolutely,
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone. And aside from my other friend from Kenya, uh, so but I met most people through my Nigerian friend when I traveled with. And yeah, I don't know, it was like a new country, new vibes, feeling excited. I was being very open and friendly, just happy to see other Nigerians somewhere.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot to bond over food. We used to meet up a few times then, maybe go have a picnic somewhere or somebody cooks one sharp jollof rice and then we all gather and eat it. And yeah, it was really fun then, you know, like just every week there's like a new person just shows up, and then birthdays
Nice.
was also another good place to meet people. You know, someone is having a birthday, you show up, and then their friends show up,
Yeah.
and you get talking with them, and maybe you find one or two people that have similar interests with you, and then they become your friends. You know, and then that was just how it works, just meeting people's friends and stealing some of them from them as well. And yeah, that's how I know most of my friends. I mean, they're all mostly Africans, very diverse as well. Like a lot of Nigerians, of course, and other African countries.
That's not diverse. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Why? It is
I'm
diverse.
so I'm
I mean,
sorry.
compared to where I'm coming from, it is diverse because
Well,
before
very
now,
nice.
I've only met. I don't think. I mean, I had one Ghanaian teacher in secondary school, but apart from that, I don't think I've
Yeah, fair
actually
enough.
met
In Nigeria, you
other
don't get to meet other people
Africans.
from other African countries too.
Yeah, you don't. It's just Nigerians all over, you know.
Yeah, and depending on where you grow. If you grow up in places like, if you don't grow up in Lagos and Abuja and the big cities, you only meet people from your ethnicity.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So that's diverse for you.
It is. It is actually diverse in a way.
I see all of that. And of course, obviously, I'm assuming you also don't have any struggles with doing grocery at the moment. But I'm also wondering,
A bit.
beyond, okay, so are there still struggles?
I mean, sometimes like I get tired of eating the same thing all the time.
Okay.
So whenever I want to branch out into a new thing. I have to figure out the ingredients, the recipe, and finding them can be tough for me.
Now let's think about this food thing a little bit longer. What do you eat on the average? Okay, now first, you've learned how to cook a few things. You said your friend taught you.
Yeah.
So, but what are these few things you know you can cook and you eat? I hope those are not very too personal questions.
No, actually, it's fine.
Okay.
Um, I've always known how to make rice and stew, but what I needed to figure out was where to buy the ingredients for stew, like
Okay.
tomatoes and all of that. So I eventually figured that out. So I started making a lot of stew, and my friend used to tease me that one day rice will grow on my head because I eat rice like 6 days a week.
I eat rice a lot too, so I say. But I love it. I love rice. Like,
Yeah,
if there's a
it's
favorite meal, it should be rice.
yeah, absolutely. And but I think for me, I tend to eat a lot of small things, and I also don't eat breakfast, so it means that I don't have to eat so much during the day. Like I could start my day with banana and yogurt, and then I eat like one plate of rice or two, and I end the day with another fruit. So in a way, I don't rely so much on cooked food, which of course makes it easy for me because I don't really enjoy cooking. And then if I do end up cooking, it lasts for much longer than it would for an average person. So you always have
Can
like
I ask? Can I ask
cereals in my
about
house.
our? Is it our plantain porridge? Has it finished?
No, it has not finished. I'm missing the plantain porridge so much because
Because
I'm dreading cooking a new one. I still have everything I need to make it actually. I still have stockfish, I have palm oil, I have crayfish powder and stuff. But just that whole process of mixing it together is exhausting. It. I'd rather just, keep this on for a little bit longer. It was also a very big pot of plantain porridge, to be honest. Like big.
how long more is it going to last?
I'm not sure it will last beyond this week.
Okay. But I mean, that should count for something. That would be like about 1 week now.
Yeah.
And so, based on what you've said, you really don't know how to cook soup. So,
Oh,
but actually, I don't think you like swallow that much, do you?
no. I think there was like after I moved here, I used to eat swallow like once a year on my birthday. Because
Why
for
your
my
birthday?
birthday, I usually buy food. Like I
Okay.
have like a small party with my friends, so I make food in bulk. Not with my hands,
Okay.
of course, but someone
I
makes
mean,
the makes the
you
food,
buy them.
and I pay the person. So in addition to the party food, so
Yeah.
actually when in the my first year of moving, my birthday party, like it was only swallow. Like I had
Mhm.
egusi and obono, I think. So that means, of course, I have to eat swallow as well. There's always like leftover because I usually make more than the people that I invite. And then
Yeah.
the leftover, I put it in the fridge and I eat it for like 3 weeks or a month because I'm good at saving food because I don't like
For
cooking.
rainy days.
And then that's just how I do it. Like I think the next year as well, for my birthday, I got some swallow and soup, and then I saved some, and it lasted like a month for me because it was like a big bowl of soup and all. And I could
Yeah.
just make swallow myself. I have Gary at home.
Yeah, that's easy. This is why
Yeah,
I don't understand why people see, when it comes to swallow, it's curry. And it's because it's easy. Like it's the
yeah,
easiest. I cannot be doing semovita or anything that
absolutely.
you have to. No. Nobody has that time, please. Because by the time I finish doing semovita, I would have finished eating the eba. You know what I mean? So what are you saying?
Yeah, I
But
also
yeah,
tried the Samovita things, and I was like, "This is too much stress. Why is it? Why does this
it's
exist?"
see, it's I can't be bothered. And my friends who don't understand. They'll be like, but then eba is hard. I'm like, it's swallow. We're supposed to swallow it. I'm not like chewing it or
Yeah,
anything. it's still the same. I mean, the textures are not the same, but I just cannot be bothered. If it's ever just
Yeah.
boil what Tanya said.
I also
But
grew up
that's,
on Gary.
yeah, I
So
mean,
like
I think
there's no
it's most
way
common
to make
for
it
Igbo
look
people.
bad
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when you had like different swallow, like it's either pounded yam and semo, and that's just for weddings and burials. So
If again, I'm not going to be the one to cook. Exactly. So it's like, I can never be bothered. I don't know how people do that. But eating swallow once a year, it's something I cannot do. And it's because it's swallow. I mean, it's not because I can actually stay months, maybe a month or two without swallow. But again, like I was telling you last time, it's a process. So it's something that you have to take our time to do and then store them up for a particular time. But also, I don't like storing up food for more than 2 weeks. I always feel like I know it's in the freezer or in the fridge, so it's not bad. But then mentally, I'm always like, it's been here for too long.
Mm,
So I try to cook things that will last for like 2 weeks. And now I can't make swallow again. So like I have a friend visiting. So when the friend comes, I'll make soup. Because if I make soup now, by the time my friend comes,
you won't feel like eating it.
I won't feel like eating it anymore. So I'm like, nah. So I just have to find something to eat. But like I always have stew in my fridge. There's hardly any time it comes to my house there's no stew because I love rice. And Nigerians would pretend or claim that jollof rice is the best way to eat rice, but that's as far from the truth as possible. White rice and stew is always the best. And I don't
Yeah.
think that's not debatable. So
Especially if you're
it's,
trying
I
to
was,
save on food. Like it's always best to
of course,
have the
okay,
stew
even at
separate.
that, yes, it saves food. Yeah, exactly. So I plan to make ofako. I'm going to do that still around the time my friend comes because the friend has never had ofako before. So I'm going to introduce it to them. So, but yeah, that's basically how I was thinking about food because I like food. For someone that doesn't eat much, I actually like food. But I also feel like it's a hassle. Like, I wish I would be able to always outsource it. Like,
Yeah.
have someone else do it. I actually enjoy cooking with people, but that's when they are doing the cooking, I'm giving them moral support by maybe washing the vegetables and
I mean
gisting
that's
with
fair.
them and all of that. That's the perfect way to cook. But then it's not visible here. So I try to do my cooking like once or twice in a month. Have my stew. Once I have my stew, I can always make another thing. If I want to eat plantain porridge like yourself, it's not that hard. Just put the plantain and everything said. Then beans and plantain. But Nigerian food is actually a process and it takes a lot of time and I wish that it didn't.
Yeah.
And if I can also not eat 3 times a day, I would do that. Not because I don't want to eat, but just because it's a lot of work. And when I tell about the work, I know I was trying to explain it to you, but I didn't understand it. First, okay, even if the food is already set, I still have to microwave it.
I mean the
And I
advantage
have to do the dishes after.
of not knowing how to not knowing but of not enjoying the process of cooking is I'm not a picky eater. Like I can eat food that has been in the fridge for 3 months or 6 months. I absolutely do not care. I just want to put something in my belly. And I mean, if you're not going to put in the effort to learn how to cook, like you can't be picky about food. I mean, this is like a sub for myself, you know. Like if you,
That's not very Nigerian man of you because sorry I cut it short. You know how Nigerian men always are on social media complaining about women who can't cook for them. Almost like,
yeah,
so you cannot cook.
yeah,
That's
if you can put in the
I,
effort, then I don't know. You have to take what you get.
something very funny happened yesterday. A friend sent me a screenshot from a WhatsApp status update and asked me to interpret some parts of the conversation for her. She's not Igbo. The conversation was started in English and ended in Igbo. So I need to interpret it for her. And after I interpreted, I thought maybe she just saw something on someone's status and wanted to understand it. It turns out that someone was shading her friend
Hmm.
because her friend did not cook for him. And I'm like, goodness This is 2024, and Nigerian men are still like, because the friend doesn't understand Igbo too. So this man, the friend didn't cook for, went to his own status update to rant. And then was ranting in a mix of English and Igbo. And of course, my friend's partner, my friend's friend rather, who got the idea, this is for me, like it's a sub, wanted to understand it, sent it to my friend sent it to me. And I'm like, okay. It, I don't want to talk about all of that, but it's always very funny. Like you said, if you don't know how to cook, I think you shouldn't have much
Should be
words to
entitled,
say
yeah.
exactly when about other people's food. Like in my father's house, in my house where I grew up, you don't even complain about the taste of the food. You're not allowed. So my parents don't allow you to complain about the taste of the food because you're not the one making the decision here. Not, of course, not, I mean, as much as we want to all lie that every food in our home is cooked well every time, it's not always the case. And in my own house, my mom doesn't do most of the cooking. But even though it's not my mom that did the cooking, my father would not let you say anything wrong about the food because it's here. You have to appreciate the fact that there's a food here for you to eat and you have to eat it. And if you feel like if you go to your own house where you make all the rules, you can decide to make all the comments you want to make about the salt, the pepper, whatever it is, for that in his own house. And which is also why I think I grew up finding people ranting about food rude. Like there's a particular friend I had. It was fun. I went somewhere with this person and we served food. And the next thing I hear is him putting comments about this person's food. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how did I know this person? I really wanted to disappear because I've never seen it happen that you go to someone's house and you're served food and you're complaining. When I brought it, I was like, but we are friends. I'm like, well, we're friends, but then the friendship also started as because we all met the same day. So we've not been friends for such a long time for you to feel that comfortable. Like we're
Yeah.
still building on this friendship that we have. And that's why we are in this person's house and we've been served food. And the next thing you're doing is talking about this. I'm like, what what the fuck is wrong with you? Sorry. And it's actually, it's affected the kind of friendship I have with that person. Like, I had to start extracting myself from this person because I'm like, this person can literally go somewhere and say something that will have me hooked. Because why would you even say something like that about someone's food? And food is such a thing that everybody have their own taste. It doesn't make it bad because
Yeah.
if I cook and you eat the food, you might think it's too peppery or that it's too salty. But that's because it's your taste. It doesn't exactly make my food bad. And which is why, for me, before I say something about someone's food, I think I give them the grace of eating their food several times. And if it's my friend, for instance, like if I go to Ziki's house, I can tell him how I want the food to be because of the kind of friendship we have. And like Ziki and I already established, he likes his soup thicker than I would like my soup. Like if Ziki cooks soup, if you turn the soup upside down, nothing's going to move. That's how thick the soup usually are. And for me, it's always like, no, 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 no. We need some little water or something. So, but I can tell him that
Yeah.
because of the friendship we have. I can't be saying that the first time I'm in his house and he's giving me food to eat. That would be very
Yeah.
fucked up.
Definitely not.
Exactly. But then some people really don't have that grace and it's very annoying. And for me, I think it's bad behavior. Like I said, with that friend, I was like, this friendship, we have to put some lines somewhere because this person will embarrass you. And I promise you, I don't want to say more, but this person has actually embarrassed me several times. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't know why I went on that track. I don't know why I went all into that. But yeah, so you've moved from the job you came to and you've gone to another one. So what's the transition like between getting one job and another in Germany? And how has your command of English, German language, does it play any role in that?
um it it wasn't that difficult to move jobs. And finding the job wasn't also hard for me. So I think then, like 2 years ago, there was this tech boom. Like there were so many open positions in tech, and recruiters were headhunting like crazy. So like on a regular week, I could get like 3 job openings sent to me on LinkedIn. So it was me rejecting jobs for like a whole year until I was eventually ready to move. Like I was like, okay, I feel like it's time for me to transition to something else. But then it was like, there's so many options. So I'm going to chill and pick the one that looks the most satisfying to me. And then I got a message from the recruiter at my current company, where I work, and went through the process, signed the contract, and then started. I had to do like a bit of admin, like moving my residence permit from the previous job to the new one. So like you have to request a new piece of document, like a work permit or something. So that took like a few weeks or a month, and it was fairly easy actually.
Okay.
I don't think that I stressed myself in any way. I even went to a concert like a day before some days before one of the interviews. I was at Burna Boy's concert in Hamburg, and then I was studying in the train, like getting ready. And then in Hamburg, my friends were laughing at me. You're like, you're going to party when you have an interview in a few days.
It
you
doesn't
know,
matter.
yeah. I mean, it was a good header. It was a good wake up call because I didn't want to fumble that bag, honestly, because it doesn't come often.
Yeah.
It went well. I didn't need German because the company is it's based in Sweden,
Okay.
so and it's also remote, fully remote actually. So like they speak English primarily, and my previous company was also mostly English as well. And yeah, so I think I was putting in more efforts to learn the language at my previous company because that one was at least a German company,
Yeah.
and they had an in-house teacher, and I used to do classes like twice a week during like like an hour after lunch, and then but after I left, I didn't have that whole benefit anymore. I had to pay for my own
Yeah.
classes, which is very expensive, so I didn't bother doing it.
Is it very expensive?
It is actually. It's
How much is
like
how much is any in total?
it's like the last one I did was about 250 for
That
like
is not
one half
expensive.
of the course. Like
That is not expensive compared to some
for
places. When I was in Ulm, that half would
okay,
have cost me about 450. I'm not joking.
where,
In Ulm, where I used to live. So when you do,
but it
there
also
are like
depends on the institution that you
it's
apply
folk
to.
actually. I think it's folk actually. I think what
Yeah.
I'm figuring out is I think it depends on the location and the number of people at the location willing to learn the course. Because in Cologne, they told me it was 240, and I'm like, that's cheap. And I think there's a course ZK is doing in Bonn that is, I think 120 or thereabout. So I don't
Hmm.
know how they decide how much to charge, but I was paying for something in and in at least because it's expensive, that was more expensive, and they allow you to pay in 3 parts because each module is going to last for like 3 months. So you can pay in 3 parts. Then I was getting student benefits. I think at the end of the day, it was 390 I paid. So I was paying 130 every month. And but I see what you mean. I mean,
So that's
240
about
compared to what it's like in Nigeria
nine
too.
hundred euros per for each level. Is
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
A lot of money, but I don't have. At least I don't take money. Now you mentioned something about moving your doing some paperwork after you got your job. I didn't even know about that. So basically, you're saying if someone changes is it because it's a job with a Swedish company, or is it because you're moving job at all? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think it depends on how long you've been in the country,
Okay.
more or less. So even though it's a Swedish company, they have a legal entity in Germany
Okay.
here as well. So it's also recognized in Germany. But at that point, I hadn't been here up to, is it 2 years or something?
Yeah.
So within that duration, if you're changing jobs, you have to inform the foreigners office, and then they issue you a new work permit with the name of the new company on it.
The name of your company is supposed to be in your work permits. I didn't. I, I didn't know that. I didn't know that part.
It's so there's the residence permit, like the card,
Yeah.
and then the work permit is like a green paper. It's like
Okay.
rectangular green, and then at the back of it, it says your role in the company and the name of the
Okay.
company. But I think
Yeah. No, I have. Okay.
after 2 years, you don't have to do all that anymore.
Because the work permit I had because I don't have anyone now. I had my post-study visa, and I remember when it was given to me, I asked them if I don't need a work permit, and they were like, "No, that you don't get given that with a post-study visa." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever you say, that has not stopped me from getting a job, of course." So I'm just very not conversant with all of these processes. And now that you say it, I feel like it's going to be a little bit stressful to do. But like I said, it's not stressful. Everything is stressful for me, so that counts. That's no problem.
I mean, there's a chance you won't have to do it. It stops being necessary after a while. But it's
Fair
also
enough.
helpful because like it helps I think it probably helps the company and the government to make sure that your taxes and contributions are going to the right accounts, especially for social security, health insurance, and unemployment benefits, or so that the company doesn't pay to some random place and then your papers start jumping up and down.
Well, I think I understand that. And I think now we're talking about permits. I think I would also ask you about getting your visa from Nigeria to Germany. You mentioned it took about 3 months. Do you want to talk about some of the documents that are required for that? I mean, I've never done post. I've never done. I don't have an experience with that kind of visa. At least I know for students, it's a bit different. So, what documents are
Yeah.
going to require at the time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember a couple of them. So, what the visa category I applied for is called the Blue Card, the Blue
Okay.
Card visa. So, it's like a work visa for skilled professionals, and it's a fancy term. And
Right.
a lot of the requirements was like, of course, a work contract because it's a work visa, and studies as well, like your school, your bachelor's or whatever, your transcripts. There's also this thing called a certified degree. So it's like if you have your degree in Nigeria, you you have to check if it's recognized in Germany or something like that. And
Okay.
there's like a website where you do the check. And if you don't find your degree on the website, then you need to send your transcripts and I think your certificate or something to Germany. The office is actually in Bonn. And then they would look at it and do whatever. And then they will send you back the certified degree, like saying, oh, yeah, your degree is recognized. I studied electronics engineering. So I did that process. It took about 2 weeks or a month. So they sent me the thing in PDF, which is what I used for my visa appointment. But I think after some months, some months after I'd left, I got the actual paper. They sent it by post, but I wasn't there anymore. So someone just picked it up for me. And yeah, I think once you have the work contracts, the most important part actually, and then the degree stuff, then it's the rest is just like personal info, like birth certificate and all of that, your passport and all of that stuff. And then on the German side, like in Germany, the company that you apply to, they need to do some stuff. I think they need to apply to the government to say that
Mhm.
we are bringing someone in, and these are his qualifications or their qualifications, and blah blah blah. And then there's a document that comes out of that. I don't remember the name, but they will send it to you also, you take that document to your visa appointment. in addition to
Yeah,
your
okay.
work contract.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now let's talk a little bit about the German work culture. Did you work in Nigeria at all? You worked in Nigeria before you left, right?
Yeah, I did for like 2 years. 2 years.
Can you make, I mean, I want, not necessarily a comparison, but I want to get your idea about what you think are the key differences between the German work culture and the work culture you're familiar with in Nigeria, and maybe how you were able to settle into the current or the German work culture when you arrived.
I mean, I think some of those differences is rooted in like the culture of the different countries, like Nigeria and Germany. So Nigeria companies feels like a big family in a way, in the sense that it's sometimes it doesn't feel very professional. Like people can just call you whatever. They used to
It's
call
not
me.
exactly,
They used to
go
call
ahead,
me
did you say what?
Omoibo, Omoibo in my first
Oh,
company.
hey,
So,
that's something. I wouldn't have liked it.
and understandably, because I was new to Lagos, like living full time, I used to visit in the
Still, I wouldn't have
past,
liked it.
and then I didn't know how to say their names, so they found out really funny. So they spent so much time correcting me and teaching me how to pronounce their names. And I didn't actually mind being called that, to be honest. And they were really friendly to me. And but aside from that, there's just that air of friendliness, and then there's no decorum. Like
Don't say it like that. Don't say it like that.
there's no decorum in Nigerian company.
You know, you said it's more like a family. I was going to say it's more like a friends gathering. Because in family, at least
Yeah,
there's father and mother to control things. But I think it's more like everybody is like, we are all equal and we're just here and we're trying to have a good time. But we just have to work while we're having a good time. That's
yeah.
how it feels like, yeah.
Yeah, but now that I've lived and worked here for a while, I just realized how much Nigerian companies lack decorum. Like anything just goes. Like anyone can shout anything, anyone can say anything, and
Whereas
no
I think it's because
one.
you worked in the tech space, don't you think so? Because in the banking, we don't, there's a bit of there's a bit of decorum.
Okay.
There is actually, it's just that like they get a little too personal. I think that's the big difference. At least in some industry, there is like when I worked in an e-commerce, for instance, it was more like what you described. Not like there was still, but then it's still a little bit chill in the way that bankers are not,
Hmm.
because bankers are all dressed in suit. They're trying to comport themselves, but then it's very chill. But I think it's also because you work in working in tech, which everybody is physically young and people are doing anyhow.
I mean, there
But
were
yeah,
a
I see
few
what you
older
mean.
people.
Yeah,
I think maybe there was decorum actually, but it was very informal,
yeah, it
like
feels a
a
little bit
lot,
informal
and it was
sometimes.
easy to get into, like get closer to people, like know people at a personal level. Like sometimes you would Uber with people. Like at my second job in Ikeja, like eventually I found out that some people lived close to me, and like four of us would take the same Uber to work on some days, and then we split the bill. All of those things like build friendship, bond, and all that. But I think working here is it's not that it's formal, it's that there's a gap in the culture, basically. It's still informal,
Yes.
but I can't relate to their informality, like the way they express their informal behavior. I mean, for one, it is very much surrounded around the idea of drinking beer, which is not what I love doing.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of after work beer drinking. And I'm like, is
But even
this
when you go
really
to
the
those after
life?
work beers, have you gone to any of them?
Oh, I used to go like okay, it wasn't like mandatory, but it was kind of nice to like spend time with colleagues. You don't want to look like the guy
Yeah.
that's always sleeving.
I was going to ask, did it feel informal enough, or did it still feel a bit like work?
No, it was informal. I mean, here it's almost necessary that like the idea of what's it called, this after work thing. Uh,
Because
yeah, I've forgotten the name, but there's a formal term for like closing from work and going to chill, like a German
okay,
word
I didn't
for
know
it.
about that. Maybe again because when I worked in a very
Feiertag, I
office, the
think.
last
Yeah,
job I did, fire tag, okay, the
yeah,
last job I did was not very formal. The one I lost, it's not the most formal. But when I worked in a very formal office, like when I worked in the healthcare production company, I worked in the sales and marketing team, and I just went to work once a week. So, and I left. Most people in my team, they were scattered all over Europe. But when they have to come because we had this meeting once every month. People have to come for it's a lot of people just drive home after the meeting because they're from maybe Austria or from Hamburg or from I think there was someone from Lithuania. Basically, they just want to drive home after work. The only time we had a very informal gathering was at a summer party. And as much as people were chatting, it still felt, I mean, for me, maybe I didn't ask other people about their perspective. It still felt like we're in this work event where it was also very important for you to have decorum, like you said. Of course, because I have my big mouth and I was mostly with the interns and other working students, we're young people. We said a few of, basically, it was a very chilled conversation. But also, your conduct, even though you're having this conversation, is still very let me not cross the line because this is still a work environment. So you don't have to say something and someone say something to HR. In
yeah,
Nigeria, where there's a work event like that, I don't think I would have felt that same, let me not, you know. But of course, in
yeah.
Nigeria, so I don't, as much as, of course, like you said, we just chill, we have personal conversations sometimes. For me, once it's time for me to go home, I go to my house. There's no, I don't want to be doing this because I always like to think work is work, even though we are getting personal sometimes. Let's just put like pause so they don't become such an integral part of your life. Which is funny because I ended up still having friends who I met in work environments. But even at the time I was working with them, there was a limit the friendship couldn't have gone because mentally I placed a block there. It was after I left, so I'm like, okay, there's nothing again. We can calm down and be friends, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think I see what you mean because for me, it's like the work environment here feels a little too serious. Everybody is trying to
sensitive.
be sensitive. Everybody, the way they have conversations, even when they are trying to be informal, still feels formal to me. Because how are you asking me about my weekend and you're calling me Mr. Sorry, can you just say at least Victor? And I mean, for the girls, some of them are also adapting the first name basis, but also it's still the tone of the conversation still feel very. So even when I want to answer about my weekend, for instance, instead of giving you tips that would make you ask more questions, which I would do in a very informal conversation, I'm trying to answer in a very proper, corporate way. It's not the vibe. I'm sorry. It's just not the vibe.
Yeah, I think generally in tech, when things are informal, they are truly informal.
Yeah.
Like like generally, like culturally, like even at events or in offices, like once the beer is out, then everyone just lets go. I mean, you wouldn't say insensitive things or do something outrightly bad, but people are honest about what they do in their lives. Like if they went partying all weekend, they would tell you, and likely they would even invite you to the next one and stuff like that. So like we got really informal, like talking after work, like over beer or some drinks and stuff like that. But
That's
I think the
nice.
main difference is just that like informal in Nigeria is different from informal here.
Yeah.
And one of the main differences is that there's no decorum when things are informal in Nigeria.
And then also informal in Nigeria, Nigerians get personal. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Because once you start working somewhere, in less than 2 weeks, you know who is married, you know who has children, you know
Yeah.
who is likely to cheat on their partner, and those very personal information, you don't get to feel that in the German company.
Yeah.
Because even though you know someone is, I think you know someone is married after like 2 months or even longer, or you may not even know at all. And those kind of, maybe except you saw the ring and things like that. Like there's a way the conversation happens that it doesn't get about their personal, it doesn't become about their personal life, which, I mean, which I think I like and respect. But of course, sometimes you need the tea, you know?
Absolutely. And then I think also like working here, uh, there's a definition of work is work, and after work, we're not working anymore.
Yeah.
Like no one is going to call you at night or on the weekends to work, basically. But in Nigeria, there's no boundaries. Like anyone can hit you up anytime to do whatever, you know, and that is just very exhausting. Like you can't really put boundaries in your life between work and personal time.
I
But
did though.
here,
I did. Because, you know, once I leave work, when I say like I put a block, I really actually like when I was once I leave work, my supervisor Scott cannot take it. Because for me, if you take the call, that's when you hear what they want to say.
hmm,
So that was my strategy in Nigeria. Once, okay, it's 5 o'clock, I've closed my bag. Okay, there's something we need to do. Okay, 30 minutes, we finish. I carry my bag. Once I leave there, there's nobody at work that can call me. Because I'm assuming that if maybe if my supervisor wants to call me and they know that I cannot pick, maybe they'll ask someone else to call me. So if I don't pick anybody's call, then I don't. And my excuse is, and you know the funny thing, when I now be going to work the next one, that's when I'm like, I missed your call last night. Or maybe sometimes when I arrive at work, and I'll text them, I missed your call at so and so. And the person will now call, especially my supervisor when I was working on e-commerce. She's like, I was calling, like, I didn't know my phone was on silent. Oh, I did. Oh, was it you? I thought, but I have your number. I can't see the number. I'm like, no, I always have an excuse because if you really don't put such blocks, they're going to use it. And of course, for me, I think I try to make sure I do my work. So it's not like the quality of the work I do is bad. It's just that me, I've passed this line. Which again, when I was working in banking, they are doing their meeting. The only grace I do is sometimes instead of just logging off the meeting, I log on with my phone. But I'm in that bus and I'm going back to my house because I cannot be in this office because we have it. Because the thing is, I worked in sales department in the bank and I was a relationship manager. So I was supposed to bring in accounts. I was supposed to manage people's accounts. So I spent the whole day making calls. And then
yeah,
of course, we're supposed to give details of our work at the end of every week. We do it on Monday. On Monday. Now, this meeting, I think it makes sense to maybe if the meeting sometimes takes 2 or 3 hours, which is not a problem because it's always like the whole of Lagos. But if you know it's
hmm,
going to take 2 or 3 hours, maybe start by one, so by five we are all done. But it can't be this meeting. We've done it every year. I don't know when they start, but since I came, every time you need this meeting, it takes longer. It's a brief meeting, but by the time you call everybody to give you feedback, it's going to take long. You can arrange it for it to at least not exceed the working period. So it didn't make sense for me. So once that 5 p.m. passed, if I've not said, it doesn't matter if I've said my own bits or not. I carry my bag, log on my phone, and I'll start heading home. So even if they eventually ask me to speak, I'm already on my in the bus. And I think everybody got the memo because they know if this guy is going to be on the bus, even they gave me the the job of doing all the analysis of everybody's report. I made sure it was available. I was sharing the screen. But once my time passed, I think they got the memo. And I think at that point, that was when they said being a little bit earlier and faster so that I wouldn't have to be on the street and I'm showing them my screen because it doesn't make sense. So I think the only way to go about it in Nigeria is have to like match the energy. You just have to find a way to go left or do whatever you want to do, regardless of whatever anybody is saying. But the implication of that is, of course, again, Nigeria, you can lose your job.
yeah.
And not like I wasn't aware, but I also was like, well, if that won't go, another one will come, which is very audacious for me that doesn't have money, you know. But then what can I do?
I mean, I had some
But yeah,
really crazy jobs. Like sometimes leaving work by 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. and my manager then would offer to drop me off at home, which is, I didn't really enjoy being in the car with him, to be honest. But he was being friendly and stuff. And
Yeah.
then the
And you don't
other
put in
job,
extra hours, do you?
no, absolutely not. And then this other job, I think they said we were going to stay in an apartment in Ikoyi to finish a project for like a week or two. So we moved into that apartment. I didn't go home for a whole week. And I'm not complaining, to be honest. It was a fine apartment and there
Mhm.
was constant food, loads of drinks, water. It felt like a hotel, nice bed. I was happy. I was living my life. I can't complain, to be honest. And it's not like I wanted to go home anyway. But imagine for someone else, they wouldn't like that arrangement because it's a whole week away from home and you're not doing anything else aside from working. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you face your laptop and start working. If you wake up
And
in
then
the
you face your
morning,
colleagues.
yes, you face your colleagues. My manager was also there in the same house with me.
I would
I
have
think
declined it. I'm sorry. I would have declined.
one of those nights, I think he poured water on me. Told me to wake up.
Why?
Okay.
No.
No, but I mean, we were kind of friendly. So, no, we were actually friends, to be honest.
Really?
He was a bit of a bully, but he was like, come on, you can't be sleeping by this time. Wake up and come and work. That entire experience, that's why I told you that Nigerian companies don't have decorum.
There's
That
no,
entire experience was crazy.
that's the stretch. That's a stretch. And this is another why I wouldn't have done that because I don't want to wake up and see my colleagues. No, I mean, I don't hate you, but I also don't want to wake up and see you. Which is, see, what I say, see, I take my work-life balance seriously. When I was doing working from home, like in my previous job, I have my set
Mm-hmm.
time. I wake up like normal every day, prepare as if I'm going to work, breakfast, take my shower, face my laptop, and I'm going to be there for whatever time I'm supposed to do that work. Then I'll leave. I know some people complain they are not able to, but for me, I'm thinking this work. If I don't put such arrangement, I may not deliver, and also I may
Mm.
end up being cranky, and I wouldn't want to be waking up by 5:30 in the middle of the not like 5:30, like 2 a.m. to do work. I don't want to do that. I don't want my life to revolve around work. So I try to make sure it's work and then it's me, my personal life. I don't try to mix anything. I don't want to wake up any day and the next first person I see in the morning is my manager with their unbrushed teeth because you're just seeing them. Like, get the fuck out of my face. I'll push you. Please, let's not do all of that nonsense.
To be honest, the food was good.
It doesn't
The
matter. It doesn't matter.
jollof
There
rice was
was,
good. And they used to
well, of
allow
course,
us
it has
choose
to
food.
be.
Like, if we don't like the previous catering, we
Mm.
can change the
Did
meals. I was
anybody
like,
bring
you know what?
somebody to the
I can deal
house?
with this. No, I
Okay.
can't.
Then it even have but then but of course it won't be strange if it happens in Nigeria. Maybe because your manager is there. But I mean some managers maybe they're the ones that would have brought someone in and you're like, we're supposed to be working,
Mm-mm.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think some people visited actually, but mostly people from the office.
Yeah.
Like some other people in the office just came around. They were like, "Oh, is this where you guys have been?" Like, cause we weren't going to the office as well. Like we
Yeah.
were missing from the office for like a whole week. So some people were like, "Oh, we just came to check on you guys. How is the project going and all that?"
That's
And
not the visit I meant. That's not
we
the
still
visit
didn't
I meant. You know what I mean?
finish. I mean, yes. No, the other visiting didn't happen. I think it was going to be too insensitive
Uh, but you know those
if it
things can
did.
happen in Nigeria. Nothing is going to happen about it. Nobody's going to do anything about it.
I mean, if you arrange it properly, sure, like if you get other people to cooperate, then it will definitely go well. And my manager wasn't there the whole time. I think he was there for like a few days because he has to go to the office and like talk with
Yeah.
the bosses and stuff.
And be a manager.
Yeah, so he just drops in for like a day or a night, and
And then
then
within that night, he poured out on you.
he drops in and then he gingers everyone, and then he disappears again for like a few days and stuff. I know it was actually fun. I won't lie. It was just funny. Like this is how you get to know people, and I think it's why most of my friends are like other
Colleagues from
people.
work, yeah.
Yeah, like I like 90% of the friends I made outside uni,
Yeah.
people in tech, like people I met in the previous places I worked. So it was all of these weird ass experiences that got us together. And
Oh,
yeah. And today I and my manager were like normal friends now. Like we still gist about all of this. He laughs at me. And then I remind him that he poured water on me and he's like
yeah, but yeah, to be fair, I think that would be the only reason I would choose Nigerian workplace over
yeah.
Germans is the fact that it's easy to build personal friendship or relationship. Even if you don't become friends, you have a
Yeah.
personal friendship that could thrive over time. Like yourself, too, most of the contact I have outside of uni are people I met in work arrangements. Sometimes even just at interview, you become friends and you change contact. Sometimes you just worked blah 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 blah, and then you become people you know, and they come through for you too when you need them. But in Germany, I don't think I've met anybody I would say we became friends from work. That have never happened, and I've done like 3 4 jobs within the space of where I've been here, and it's like everybody just
Yeah,
wants to mind their
it's hard.
business, which is respectful and all of that. I think I respect that, but sometimes maybe not cross the line, but try to be a little bit chirpy, talk some more, and then spill some tea because that's what keeps life going. I mean, of course, I'm not going to spill my own tea, but then I would like to hear other people's tea just because what's life without some gossip, you know?
Yeah, I think I actually might have had one colleague that, he had some tea on some days. And then
See,
he was like really friendly and talkative and all of that. But after I left the job, we didn't really keep in touch so much. But while I was there, he was fun at least. He wasn't like
with the
keeping to
tea.
himself. Yeah, he had tea, like whisper kind of tea, like, oh, did you know that this happened and all that.
You see what I'm saying? Those are the best teas because it's like, not like you need it for anything. You don't need it for
Yeah.
anything. I mean, I'm not a judgmental person, but sometimes even if you judge people, I'm not trying to be that. No, it's just for the fun of it. Oh, this person is doing this. I'm like, okay, that's nice. And that's just about that. It's not that deep, you know. But
Yeah,
of course, I
yeah,
always don't. I don't move the tea at work, because it can be messy sometimes. So I just want to be the person
yeah,
who hears, and not the person who speculates, because let's not do all of that. I also don't like to go on
yeah,
people's personal life, but sometimes it's good to know about them.
yeah, it is.
No, it's not like a messy person. I think we have to conclude. So,
I
I think we have to conclude. Is there something you think we should have talked about? Maybe
mean, what else? What else is there in life?
dating.
No. What else is there in life aside food, good food and work and I mean there's dating,
Friendship.
it's and friendship. I think I'm more of a friendships are more of my strong points than dating. I have very bad luck with dating people. But when it comes to friendships, I think I'm somehow lucky in a way. Like whenever I move somewhere, I end up finding my tribe in quotes sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's important to me because I like community. I like to be around people, like just to share whatever together as well. And for someone that also I consider myself an introvert a bit, and I also like to mind my business, which is why I really like living in Germany because there's a big mind your business attitude in this place, and it's really
Yeah,
working for
true.
me.
I fucking love it. I fucking love it. I
Yeah.
mean, I was talking about people's tea. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. I really fucking want to mind my business, and
Yeah.
it's fun. But also sometimes I also wish I have somebody that is trying to intrude in my business like Nigerians do, if not for anything, for the plot and the drama.
Absolutely. I think when I moved, it was hard for me because I'm used to people not minding their business. I'm used to people screaming, conductors shouting, people on the streets calling you, trying to sell you something. And here, everyone is just walking on their own on the road. I remember one time I fell down on a bicycle and people just walked past me. I'm like, wow, that is rude.
I saw an accident nearly happen. I think the girl actually fell on the floor eventually. So I think she was trying to cross, but there was a car coming. I can't remember if the car hit her, but I think she fell. But of course, you know how when an accident happens, there's always the shout and people are alert. And I turned my back, I see her. Instinctively, I was running towards her, but I didn't realize nobody was trying to do the same thing. She just got up
Yeah,
across the road. I'm like, when I realized it, I actually paused. There was this first the accident was a shock, and then the next shock was everybody was just like everybody turned and moved their way. I'm like, that one even got me stuck. And then she crossed. I'm like, okay, at least she could work. I turned and started going. That would not happen in Nigeria. It's going to be like another
yeah.
30 minutes production of people
I
saying,
swear.
sorry,
I
did you
swear.
wound? Should we call? They pour water on you. People are offering you food. And basically all those kind of, it should be embarrassing for the person. I mean, imagine myself, I felt something like that happen. Everybody's around me. I'll be embarrassed. I actually want people to not mind, but it's still like, it makes you feel seen and
Yeah. There's this like overall sense of community living in
yeah,
Nigeria. Like the next person could help you out, but here is like you're really on your own in the end. And if you're also not very fluent in German, it adds even an extra layer of an extra barrier to the whole thing.
true.
And but I think when I moved, it was hard, but I think I might have fully adjusted to it. So now I also made my business like even if I'm walking on the road and maybe there's a restaurant and maybe their chair fell over, you might want to pick it up for them if you're in Nigeria. Like, oh, look at this person's shop. Their table is in the rain.
Yeah,
You might push things inside. But here I'm like, sorry. And I just continue walking.
yeah.
And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just feels like it's a culture here.
I look at it from the lens of it being a cultural thing too, and I don't judge it. But also sometimes when I become that person, I saw someone sleep and fell. I didn't tell them sorry. I was going to, but I remember this is genuine. I kept quiet, and I remember thinking that's not very you. Because again, in Nigeria, instinctively you didn't cause the fall, but you are saying sorry even though you don't know the person. Like you said, sometimes you're saying you want to help people, but then you also like will I be crossing a boundary or should I just mind their business? And
Yeah.
and when you turn around, everybody's minding their business, you're like, okay, let's let it slide. And even the few times will be like, I felt people pick up their pace when it fell. They're appreciative in a way that Nigerians are appreciative people, but then you see that for them, it's, when they're saying thank you, we can also see the tone or we can feel the tone of shock. And in Nigeria, we just say, tell you thank you as normal because it's a normal thing. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
always like, they don't see it coming. And when
Yeah.
it's, but I think it's a cultural thing, like you said, and we have to get used to it and then live like the people, live that like the proverbial Romans, because we're now in Rome, yeah, so we have to live like the proverbial Romans, and there's nothing we can do.
I think the Romans are actually even kinder. They're probably friendlier, to be
Have you been
honest.
to Rome though?
Yeah, I have. Wait, where's Rome again? It's in Italy, isn't it? Yeah, I've been to Rome with some friends. We spent like a few days, a week there. It was fun. Like everyone was just raving about pasta, trying to eat pasta, pasta this, pasta that. And I just ate my pancake there. And then we went to the Vatican City as well, which apparently is a separate country of its own.
Yeah,
And but it was okay. I don't. It was just another country, to be honest.
you're right. So thank you very much for your time, Tobenna, and I hope for the people listening that we spoke about things that will be useful to them, or at least entertaining. But Shayu, thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Maybe
All
by the
right.
next time we If we get to meet again, I might have figured out how to make soup.
You don't have to worry. I'm still expecting your yes. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Talk about that later. Thank you very much for joining this part of the podcast and listening through our conversation. I hope you learned or at least enjoyed the episode. I hope you learned something or at least enjoyed the episode. And I hope you come back for the subsequent episode. And remember to follow, subscribe, or like, depending on whatever it is on your listening platform. And do have yourself a wonderful day. Bye bye.